Well, hello. First of all, I'd just like to thank everyone who subbed on the last video. It was the most amount of subs I've ever had on a video, which is like completely surprising to me actually. I wasn't sure how well people would take to me having a video series on basically going from being a subpar jeweler to hopefully getting good, but people seem to really like it. I guess I got a few comments even in game where people were saying they liked the fact that I was a bit humble and trying to, not like trying to show me winning all the time, but just showing what I've learned and showing my losses. So seems like I've got some good responses, which is really cool because I really want to make more of these videos. And it's kind of nice that as I progress, I can show what I learned and other people seem to be interested in learning too. So that's really, really awesome. I've made a playlist, so I'm just going to keep doing this series once a week. That'll be Sunday my time, which is New Zealand. So that's when I'll be releasing my kind of learn to play videos. Yeah, and I'm just really, really enjoying the progress so far and enjoying the journey. And so hopefully everyone else can enjoy that too. And again, just thanks so much for the people that did subscribe. A little small channel like this, every person makes a big difference. So yeah, definitely feel free to comment as well. I love to hear what you guys are thinking about, like some of the things I'm learning, or some of your own tips, or some of your own problems that you're having. Because the more ideas that I can get, the more content I guess I can make around it. So thanks. I've been really, really enjoying the progress, and it feels like the things that I was struggling with last week have become a bit more second nature to me this week. I wouldn't say like I'm a pro with it, but I would say that it's been like a significant improvement, and it's definitely gone into my muscle memory, so I'm not really having to think about it all the time. So some of the things that I was struggling with last week was just watching my opponents and avoiding their attacks, and also just sort of basically getting my attacks off on the opponent, especially in regards to my combos. And that was a lot to do with like just calming down a little bit and relaxing, and stop kind of panicking. Like every time I get close, I have to get an attack off. And so you can see in this duel here, I'm actually doing a pretty decent job of avoiding, well, that's not a good example there, but if you actually look at the whole, overall, over the whole duel, I'm really doing a good job of dodging a lot of their main attacks, and then I'm also doing a really good job of getting my combos off. And so yeah, it feels really good to have, knowing that last week I was struggling to do something, and then this week I've actually, it's almost become a little bit of second nature. Now, that's not to say, I wouldn't say I'm good at it yet, but it's a big improvement. Learning combinations has also been really important, and I'm definitely still need to improve on that. But this combination here, where you go from a heavy attack and then you cancel it and go into a wrecking ball. But yeah, so just doing those little combinations where you kind of trick your opponent. You start the heavy attack, and then you cancel that by going into the wrecking ball, and then when they're stunned, then you can do your shockwave and then follow that up with a heavy attack. And that is a lot of damage that comes in. So it's kind of like learning those combos and getting them off. And it actually really matters to be able to get them off, because you can see here, I'm actually at really low health and my opponent's got quite a lot of their health left. And by just getting this one combo off, I really turn that fight around and get them to low health. I actually end up winning that fight. One of the most frustrating things I found this week was fighting people that had a gear score greater than 600. And you can really see it quite well in this video where I'm dodging their attacks. But every time they hit me, my health just drops so much, and when I hit them, I'm just not doing that much damage to them, and then their health recovers so quickly, so you never really even get them below 90%. That has just been the most frustrating thing I faced this week, because it just seems like there's nothing you can do to beat your opponent. But I did some testing around this and found that it actually wasn't to do with the gear score. So in this duel here, I'm fighting one of my guildies, which has a gear score of 610. Remember, my expertise is 509. And so we're both not using food here, which is what I started to suspect was the bigger issue. And so you can see that without food, he obviously hits me harder, and I do less damage to him, but I'm able to get him well below 90%. So in this video, I've now asked him to put on a tribute food, and all the rest of the gear's the same, and you can see that pattern emerges again where I'm just not able to get him below 90% health. So it seems like it's not so much the gear score, it's that people are using a tribute food that gives you health recovery, and that will explain why I just can't seem to get them below 90% health, because like I don't hit them for much, and then what I do hit them for just gets recovered so quickly. Okay, so then in this next fight, now I've put on food as well. So now I'm negating the advantage that they had by having food and me not having food. So you'd expect that because we've both got food on, you should see roughly the same pattern as we saw when we both didn't use food. And that's exactly what you see. So I basically get them to about just under half health, which is what I did when we both didn't use food. So it seems to me like the big difference is, yeah, that is that a lot of people when they're dueling, they're using food, and so then you fight them and you just can't get them below 90%, and then that's exaggerated a lot more when you've got a low gear score compared to them, and so they're already taking less damage from you and doing more damage to you. So yeah, so I think from now on I'm just dueling with food, and then just if people ask, I'm just going to tell them, yeah, I'm dueling with food. Another thing I've learned this week is to be a lot more aggressive. I guess coming from like a bow and rapier, I've been obviously very kitey and very defensive, and you kind of don't want anyone getting close to you. And if you do, that's when you use your rapier to kind of do some damage and then get away. And so when I've been playing my melee class, I've been playing really, you know, like at a distance, and I've sort of been coming in trying to get my damage up and then running away. And I've noticed that that doesn't help me at all. And just being really hyper-aggressive really usually can turn fights around that I've been losing into a win. So, and this is a classic example. So I really struggle fighting VG, IG, and you can see that I'm kind of afraid of them getting in close, and so I'm kind of keeping a distance from them. And, you know, not to my benefit here, so they just slowly tear me apart. I'm just being way too cautious and end up paying for it by losing. So in the next fight, this is where I decided to just be a lot more aggressive, kind of a bit more balls to the wall. And so I just kind of like, I mean, obviously I'm trying to avoid a lot of their damage, but I just get in there and apply pressure a lot more. And yeah, it basically works a lot better for me, and I'm able to do a lot more damage. So I guess I learnt with this is that you've got to be able to fight up close while still avoiding their damage, but you can't give up on pressuring the opponent, especially as a melee and especially as a Great Axe Warhammer. The biggest advantage you have is by pressuring them and keeping that pressure on. If you give them a second to, if you give them a bit of reprieve, then obviously then they're just going to lay all their damage into you. So yeah, I end up applying a lot of pressure and then winning this fight, which was a good feeling, especially against the VGIG. And another little trick I've learned against VGIG is if they do manage to get you into a route, I try to get my stun obviously onto them. So you kind of wait for them to come in close and then you get your stun on them. Another thing is watching your stamina, especially against ranged opponents. I don't tend to have a problem running out of stamina against melee, but I have a huge problem when I'm fighting ranged opponents like bows and mages, where I try to dodge their attacks while I'm going at them, and I've been picking up on that pretty good this week and actually avoiding a lot of their attacks, which you can see I'm doing here. The problem is I forget to look at my stam bar, and often I run myself out of stamina like I just did then. So you can see in this fight, this was the fight right after, I'm a lot more careful to preserve that stamina and not waste it by just dodging too many times. So you can see I'm kind of dodging a bit more when I can see they're about to fire, as opposed to just kind of like, I don't know, being a little bit more free and easy with the dodges. So I preserve my stand better. I think at one point I do actually run myself dry, but I've managed to, because I haven't been running myself out of stamina, I'm able to apply the pressure a bit more. So it ends up in me being able to win the fight. So it's been a pretty good week, and certainly the ratio of wins to losses has been going a little bit more in my favor. I just want to talk a little bit about kind of like the mentality around dueling. That was kind of something I didn't even think about, but it's definitely come into play. I think the main thing is just accepting that you're shit. And like accepting that you're gonna lose, because like you learn way more fighting someone that you're losing against than fighting someone that you're gonna win against. So what I like to do is I like to, if I'm losing to someone I know they're good, I'll just ask them if I can duel them like 20 or 30 times, and then kind of measure how well I'm doing against them at the start versus how well I'm doing against them at the end. And so it doesn't really matter in a way if you're winning or losing, as long as you've made progress, right? So if you're at the start of the fight only getting them to 90%, but by the end you're getting them to 25% of their health, then like that's good, like you've made progress. So just accepting you're going to lose. The other thing too is just kind of like, I find like I can only duel for so long before I just start going almost into just like automatic mode, and my brain kind of shuts off. So just kind of being aware of that, and maybe taking a break when you need to, when you start going automatic and you know you're kind of not concentrating. Like for example, you know, you should be looking at your opponents and what they're doing, and all of a sudden you've just been hit by kind of basic attacks. So at that time, maybe just like take a break. Another time to take a break is when you've got the computer in your hands and you're about to throw it out the window. That's like a really good time to take a break as well. So yeah, in the future, so I'm just going to wrap it up now. In the future vids, what I want to kind of be doing in the next week is I really want to learn the rotations on the skills, because I'm finding that I'm constantly looking down at my skills to see whether they've come off cooldown, and I know it would make a massive advantage if I just kind of like instinctively knew, and I know that will come with time, but it's something I want to pay attention to, is just kind of knowing when skills are going to be up, so you can kind of be mentally planning in your head what you're going to do next to counter your opponent. I also wouldn't mind trying light and heavy armor. As you'll know, my gear score is quite low, so I'm quite squishy. So I'm thinking like if I went light, I could play a more sort of hit and run kitey style, which, you know, I'm kind of used to with playing like rapier and bow. So I thought that might work, and I'd be doing more damage. And then contrary to that, wherein heavy could just compensate and allow me to take more of a hit. So that would work too. I guess I'm just worried about being able to get away from my enemies in like things like outpost rush. So yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Hey, thanks everyone for the support. It really has meant a lot having everyone, like so many subscriptions. It's kind of crazy. I mean, it wasn't that much really for probably people that are bigger creators, but it was a lot for me. And just the fact that I got such a good response from the last video. So it's sort of like, I'm really enjoying playing a completely different style that I haven't played before. I'm really enjoying melee. So yeah, I'm kind of like stoked that that other people are kind of interested in it too. Anyway, so yeah, see you next week, I guess. Bye.